Well, hello, Unlimited Wisdom family. Another daily wisdom. I think this one's on Friday. Okay, I got to remember. So, hi, Deborah, Mary, Charles, Lisa Marie, Dustin, Bill, Sandy, Mike, Trish, and Melody. And of course, the hostess with the mostest, Craig Jackman. Mine, like I said, I'm going to start doing my best on I think I do this already, so I won't change my uniqueness in who I am. But I just thought I would cover topics that crack me up. And so today the topic is complaining. All right, complaining. And I thought that I would start out by saying to each and every one of you, do you know of anyone that doesn't complain? Because I find myself complaining. And I just thought I would bring this up of being a little bit of, I'm now going to start putting these things in category as drifting. If you're constantly complaining, wouldn't it be interesting to think about something that you complain about? And then after you complain about, can you ever think that it just immediately or ever just got better because you went out of your way to throw some energy at changing it? You know what I mean? So we all complain. Hi, Scott. Thanks for jumping on. So we all complain. And then when we complain, it's like, wouldn't it be neat if we just had the power, like a magic wand, to complain about it and then click on it and it would actually change? But it doesn't. So I know some people that I just love them and accept them for who they are, but they never ever will stop complaining about the government. And it's like it's just hilarious to me that they can complain about the government, but because every one of us are very, very unique, through our complaining, does it ever just turn out to be the way you wanted it to be? Because I think I brought this up before that it's pretty hilarious, that George Carlin or a Seinfeld can come up with a comedic routine about stuff that we all complain about or all do. And it's like when we all think about it, we just go, like I seen Seinfeld one time, he'll sit down and as soon as he sits down, he'll look at something and he'll start talking about it. And everybody around him just starts cracking up because he just states the obvious. And so I know that he did all this comic, comedians in cars. If you guys haven't seen it, I just think it's hilarious. Thanks, Mike, for jumping on. Hope Angela's great. And, he was just sitting at this thing and the guy just said, well, how can you just come up with stuff? And he goes, for instance, he says, is there really any perfect silverware? And he's like, because usually the silverware is either too heavy or it's too light. He's got, and me and Terry eat at this restaurant all the time called Jake's. And I'm telling you what, I've never had a heavier fork or a heavier knife. It's like it's crazy. But then the same thing, and then of course he brings into who came up with the idea of putting a spoon and fork together, a spork. You know what I mean? And so my whole concept that I wanted to share with every one of you is, again, through your awareness, really check out what you do where you're constantly complaining, and I would say challenge yourself to say, okay, what if I could not, complain for like an hour and slow but sure work it into a routine or a ritual where, that what if you could just get rid of complaining? And a lot of you might be going, wow, Robert, you bring this up. Do you complain? I absolutely do. And that's why I thought it would be such a funny subject to talk about, because what we do and really nailing down this stuff that Dana's been teaching us on Outwitting the Devil on Wednesday, he talks about this drifting stuff. And I've been like looking at different categories of drifting. And one of the things that we can do is that, let's say that we are uncomfortable and we're starting to do things that we're very uncomfortable with. You guys are following me? So it doesn't feel good doing them. So then if we can complain And then the next thing would do is to actually share our complaints with other people. And when you do, then they can agree that that's the way it is. And then that allows us an excuse to stop doing the things that are uncomfortable. So, a neat example, for instance, is like, we're supposed to reach out to those that have ears to hear. Well, I don't know what's wrong with social media today. I don't know what's wrong with people today, but I find that a majority of the people that I reach out to won't even reply. How many of you could help me out with my complaining right now and go, me too? You see what I mean? How many people, when they reach out to people, they not only don't reply, but they also reach out to you and tell you about something else they're doing. See what I mean?
My plate is full since I'm doing LifeWave or whatever. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And so what would be some other ones, It's like, well, them coming up with excuses, I don't know anybody. This has been the funniest one that I've had even prior to the internet. You know what I mean? So I would say to somebody, hey, listen, this is just like referring a good movie. If you've seen a good, movie or something like that, or what good restaurant you would tell other people. So if this is not for you, do you know of anyone that would be interested in making some extra money or becoming healthier? And they go, I don't know anybody. But the reason that I'm bringing this up, and I hope you guys are getting some fun out of it, the way I'm delivering it, it's just like, well, we have a tendency again on focusing on the wrong thing. So as soon as we can focus on why it's not working the way we would like it to work, then that allows us to drift. You guys get it? It's like wow, it's so I brought it up. So for those of you that are on everything that I do, thank you very much, because I hope that people watch the replay on that. Because me and Chris, hi Matt, thanks for jumping on. Because I shared with you that I was talking to Chris Robinson, and just out of nowhere, he was just saying, man, marketing CBD just seemed to be easier than this.
God, like it felt like it was, what's the word?
Effortless.
Effortless. Oh my God, it felt effortless.
Like when you find a trend, it's pretty easy. And I always thought that the CBD oil had sort of like a little stigma behind it. It's like the funny thing about when we first got involved in the CBD market, there was a bunch of these people that are always telling me how holier than thou they were. Right? How many people know what I'm talking about? It's like, I would never touch that stuff. I go to church, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd go in my back office and they were my biggest purchaser of the product. I mean, they never mess a Delta 8 sale. It's like, no, I would never use that. And it's like, okay, I'll order the Delta 8s underneath my son's name or something. I don't know. But I just thought it was always really hilarious, right? But when I was talking to Chris Robinson, it was pretty interesting that I said, here's a theory that I have. Well, what would be the difference in coming up with a theory why something's not working? Why is that different than complaining? I'll just let that set on you. So I was telling him, hey, I've been thinking about this, and I covered it a little bit yesterday, so I don't need to talk more about it. But I just said to him, because the product is so documented and has so many testimonials and so many everything, is that people are focused more on trying to convince people and sell people because they have all the ammo to do it. And this is downloaded to me while I'm saying this, right? It would be the difference in having a bolt action rifle. For those of you that don't know what that is, you got one bullet at a time, you know what I mean? And you got to pull it back and do one bullet at a time. people that shoot a single action, anything, versus a clip with 60 bullets in it that's semi or full automatic. So, if you got one shell at a time, for those that do understand firearms, it's like you point, you focus, and boom. And then you got to totally load up another one. And so, much ammunition as a Munical has, with its patents, its 3,000 stories, its gold standards, it's, everything, and the PDR. It's like, it's very easy to go to automatic and go, burn, burn. So I've never seen anyone yet, right? Yet, that when they're sharing a Munical with people, they talk about one thing. No, there's way too much ammo here. So it's got patents, it's got gold studies, it's got clinical studies, it's in the PDR. So I know people don't mean to do this, but I think we've all heard the analogy that someone says, well, what are you doing? And instead of you just giving them a sip of water because they ask, you open up a fire hose on them and you just like drown them. And I think I'm just thinking that Immunical has that much ammo that people are just overdoing it. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So, but even though I said that, that sure wasn't a solution. Are you guys following me? Like, hey, here's a thought that I had on why people are struggling. Is that a complaint? Is that complaining? And so I know that Winston Churchill always said that a pessimist can find something wrong with a pessimist always can find something wrong with every solution. Right. And so I sort of caught myself. So after I talked to Chris about it, I just had gotten done talking to him. So I brought that up on the breakthrough. And then afterwards, because I want to constantly be corrected, I want to get gooder and gooder. It's like myself was beating myself up. It's like, you're usually not the person that's jumping on the bandwagon of saying why something is not working. More time should be spent on why it should. And I think I shared with you guys, that's why we've seen Josh move from sharing the product first to saying what everyone's talking about, which is, hey, do you know anyone that needs extra money? And what's really, really unique about that time right now is that I'm sure that there was a time, but probably in 1980, I remember it being, that I just graduated from high school, but the late 70s and the early 80s were, for whatever reason, not very good financially for people. So it was constantly being talked about or chirped about. And man, this constant thing right now, regardless of who you're listening to, about how expensive everything is. The whole concept of affordability, right? And it's funny how, both administrations, the one prior to this one and this one, it's like I totally believe that it was won and will be lost on that same thing. It's like, so, if Mike reaches out to me and he goes, hey, Robert, I'm having a little difficulty making ends meet. And my response to Mike is a bunch of things that have nothing to do with him. Mike's going like, listen, money is really tight right now. Well, the stock market's never been higher. You see how much money's been made off gold? It's like, well, none of this makes any difference to me. But so when people are not really answering your problem or your solution to your complaining, that's when you want to really, really say, well, listen, how am I sharing this? So a couple of extra things. You guys know I love throwing some stuff in, but Maya Angelou said this. if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude toward it. So it's pretty interesting in the years that back in the day, I won't say how many years ago because I just don't remember. But man, attitude used to be a word that was like an everyday word if you were working on personal development or anything to make your mindset or your heart space better. It's like, what's your attitude? What's your attitude? Change your attitude. And I guess the definition of attitude without looking it up would be just basically what they call today is reframing. You got to change the way you look at it. If your perspective changes, then guess what? Your attitude, your thinking, everything changes on that. And so another one by Eckhart Tolle, complaining is always non-acceptance of what is. So what I think is very unique about that is that people complain about the government, but it just is what it is. Me and Matt had a high faith. Thanks for jumping on. Hi, Coach Bob. Me and Matt were having a conversation yesterday, and it was like, I just think that more and more and more, it just looks like everyone's setting things up for themselves. We would like one party or the other to be able to do something for us.
Because that's their job.
But I just don't see that happening. Do you guys see it happening at all? So you can be pro one, pro versus another. But just like I said, it's like someone can tell you that everything is going great. But,
when you go to the grocery store,
yeah,
it ain't great.
Yeah. Terry's like, hey, it's like, hey, my bill's $100 more than it used to be. Yeah, but gas and eggs are down. That ain't helping me.
Car.
That ain't that ain't helping me. So, another thing that I just think is always unique about complaining is I learned this from one of my first mentors. Roger Penske would always say that whenever you're complaining about something, if you want to live in a what if world, then be creative and use your imagination to make it the worst that it can be. Because if you make it the worst that it can be, you'll usually laugh and go, that's not going to happen. So the one that I used to use all the time about rejection, right, is when you look at rejection, it's like, well, I don't want to be rejected. I'm in fear, false emotions or education appearing real. And I just don't want to contact with strangers. It just seems to me to be a total waste of time. You know what I mean? And so you get to justify and make up excuses why you don't need to do the work. All right? So people would go, how do you get over that fear of contacting strangers? And I just say, take it to the worst. So there's two things that really work good with reframing your mind, and that's reducing to the ridiculous, or the opposite is make it so crazy that, well, what if you reached out to a stranger and when you started talking to them, they said, I can't believe you did this, and they hung up the phone. And then you heard later that they committed suicide. And they said the reason that they did it is because you reached out and wanted to share something with them. And people go, excuse me, that's not the worst that could happen. What do you mean? The worst that could happen is the person says, I can't believe you called me. They hang up, and a few hours, you hear a knock on your door. And when you open the door, they're standing there and they kill you. And see, most of the time when you do stuff like that, people go, that's stupid. That's stupid. That would never happen. Well, if that's the worst that could happen and that won't happen, what are you really scared of? Because we always make these things up in our head about how awful it would be for someone to ignore us, and how awful it would feel for them to say no. And it's like, when you can get past that or be willing to go through that, then what you'll do is you'll stop complaining about it. And now what you do is you reframe that. It's like, well, why do you do that? Well, sooner or later, I'm going to find another Lisa Marie. Or sooner or later, I'm going to find another Melody. Or sooner or later, I'm going to find another Mary. Or sooner or later, I'm going to find another Coach Bob. Do you guys get this? It's like, so why would I go through all those people? You go through all those people to find the good ones, right? And the ones at the right place at the right time that do have ears to hear. Let me read a couple more here. Dale Carnegie said, "A fool can criticize and condemn and complain, and most fools do." So a fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. And excuse me. And Winston Churchill, I said this already. A pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. So it's looking for why it won't work instead of why. And my other mentor, Bill, he used to do this to me every time. I would see him do this to people, and they would tell you why they can't do it. I'm too busy. I don't know anyone. I don't like sales. My spouse doesn't like me to do this stuff. I've failed before. And they just go on and on and on. And I sometimes I would see Bill say this, and he's going, "Is that it?" He would just say, "Is that it?" And they would sit there and they would think for a little bit, and they would come up with a couple of more. You know what I mean? Well, I don't like, talking to strangers, and on and on and on. And then when they finally stop, that's good, garbage truck, Mike Melodies, like, yeah. And when they would stop, he goes, "Wow, you seem like a very resourceful person." He would always compliment people. "You seem to be a very resourceful person," or "You seem pretty smart." And they go, "Well, thank you." And he goes, "Can you tell me one reason why you should do this? Just give me one reason why you should do this." And they're like, "Yeah, I need to make some money." You know what I mean? It's funny, but what we have a tendency of doing is when people start complaining, we try to get them to stop complaining. Or the biggest mistake that we do to people is we tell them that you shouldn't feel that way. How many people here have a significant other? You know what I mean? When well, this is even just a different relationship, but I'm sure you've had these conversations, Deb, with your daughter. But whenever you have a conversation with someone, it is pretty interesting how they can see the exact opposite side that you see. Isn't that interesting? I just think that's what relationships are, because we're so unique. We're miracles. You know what I mean? So when you come up with something, they go, "Yeah, well, what about this? Well, what about this? What about this?" And as soon as you say you shouldn't think that way, how many people know that you pretty much got a battle going on? And so instead, let them dump some more. I was like, "Is that all you got?" And I know how you feel. I felt the same way. But this is what I found, right? And so here's some really short and powerful one. Complaining is a rehearsal for failure. Energy flows where attention goes. Stop feeding what you hate. Let me tell you what I don't like about that. It's crazy. Every complaint is a decision to stay powerless. As soon as you identify the problem, let me tell you what the problem is. As soon as you identify it, it's now out of your control and you're powerless. Why would you do that to yourself? I'll tell you why. You're unaware. You're unaware that things out of your control can actually be things that empower you because you realize that you shouldn't do anything about them. That allows you to reframe it in your mind and go, what can I do with what I have and what I'm doing now? What is a little step that I could take that would get me into momentum to take power over this situation, and instead of just getting into the pity pat party, right? How many people have heard the phrase misery loves company? See, I always crack up when I see this because a lot of you know who I am and I love you. But one of the things I do know that always happens with groups is there's something that you guys would like to complain about, but how many of you don't reach out to me? See, that only means that I have shared with you why you shouldn't. Because I'll help you reframe it, and now it's not a problem anymore. And now the excuses are gone, so now you're okay to be uncomfortable and start changing your future. So if there's something that you think is wrong, it would be easier for you to call somebody else in the family and go, hey, Lisa, how are you? Great, great, great. Hey, you got a second? Yeah. Let me tell you about some of the shit I'm complaining about. And when people don't realize, like Melody, you guys, the reason that Melody has the dump truck story is because before she was already an amazing human doing. She's just an incredible woman. And when I first met her and she started rising above and becoming above average, then everyone felt like they could go to Melody and complain instead of coming to me because I'm not going to listen to it. I'm the person that after you whine and complain, I'm going, so what do you think we should do about it? Give me a reason why it would work. So I'm that person that I don't know how long I would allow you to complain because I think that I'm still considerate. I think a lot of you have reached out to me and shared with me some problems. Me being a good friend with Bob now, it is pretty funny that Bob will send me a message. And after he sends me a message, then another one comes and he goes, oh, by the way, if what you heard from me sounds like complaining, I just wasn't. How many of you know people that are not complaining, but what they're doing is they're stating the facts to you the way they see them. They're stating the facts to you based on their perception and real life things happening. But so now I don't have to send a message back to Bob going, hey, it sounds to me like you're complaining, because as he's coming out of his mouth with it, he's going like, wow, I just left a 3-minute message.
Oh my God.
And that wasn't like very positive, have a great day, we're going to rule the world kind of message. We got this, right? But I just thought that, when we think of ways that we can get gooder, if we can really put some humor around it, just like catch ourselves, I've said this many, many times, and I know that you guys can really get this, but we do have the ability to heighten our awareness. And we can do it in a blink of an eye. So the one I give all the time, let's say that we all go over to a house, right? And Mike talked a little bit about this, send Trish and Mike and their incredible pets, some prayers. And but one of the things that we do is if we're going all over to Mike's, right? And someone says, listen, they're having some problems right now. And just don't mention how much you love your pet. You see what I mean? How many of us, when you raise someone's awareness level, can go over there and not say anything? And I used to try to do this with my mom. When my mom, she's like a 3-time cancer survivor. And you get these people that when they're around her, they would be going, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like they're already accepting that she's going to die. Do you guys know people like this? It's like not like, hey, what are we doing to kick this ass? Kick this cancer's ass. There's not too many of those people that were walking around. You know what I mean? Have you gotten a second opinion or a third opinion? Have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? Isn't it amazing when you get around people that are trying to help you solve a problem instead of trying to get into the walling with you? And like, hey, let me give you some options of how it would be worse. I'll give you a couple of more here. Winners adjust, losers complain. You can complain about the storm, or you can learn to sail. The classic Jim Rohn things, you know what I mean? Gratitude and complaining cannot occupy the same space in your mind.
Bless you.
Bless you. So you're either in gratitude or you're in complaining. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. How many people have heard that one? Didn't give anyone credit for that here. And get this, complaining is a habit, but so is leadership. So are you always trying to figure out the way to get it done? You know what I mean? And I was blown away by something I seen yesterday, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it just showed how many people out there, I guess when you live in your bubble, you don't realize how many people are not in the bubble, right? And my bubble, without a shadow of a doubt, is sports and entrepreneurship. I love inspiring stories. So me and Matt were talking yesterday, and if there's anything that I'm addicted to is inspirational winning stories. I'm addicted to them. I attract them. They're around me all the time. And so if my radar is always consistently finding inspirational stories, and what's more inspirational for me in sports stories than anything is always the comeback story. Because it seems like it's virtually impossible to have a winning story without going through some pretty bad defeats. You know what I mean? So you hear about these people that are constantly going through all this stuff, and then, the story behind every winner in the Olympics is the Olympics that they were in and they didn't get anything. How do you prepare for 4 to 10 years and then go to the Olympics and not win anything and stay in the right mindset for another 4 years to attempt it again? That's a pretty special human being, wouldn't you agree? And so like a lot of things in my industry is you get people that are going like, yeah, I've tried a number of different companies and I've never made any money. And I'm going like, give me some examples. Oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. Okay, great. Wow, I just realized, do you know what they all have in common? What? You. No, yeah, Sandy's like, it's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So again, always think about if there's something that you can go back to, then you're always going to be a person that can help someone see the other side without being critical, right? Just let them sometimes say, so the one thing that I utilize, and I know that you guys know that I do this, but I believe that I do this because my mentors did this, and then I just became aware of it. That if I could do a parable, or I could tell a story, or I could give them a theoretical example that was outside of who they are. See, when you try to attack somebody, you don't mean to attack them. You're just trying to get them, wow, it seems like you're complaining and looking for fault and stuff. Let me help you out with your feelings and your thinking. That usually doesn't go very well. So if you hear people ever say to me, well, I've tried a number of things and they didn't work, you know what I mean? That's when I say to people, I go, hey, listen, I got a great story for you. A lot of people don't know this, but I was a mechanic and I was really introverted. I usually always say to people, do you know an auto mechanic? And they'll go, yeah. And I go, real social butterflies. And they usually crack up because an auto mechanic has like 2 or 3 friends and they're other auto mechanics. They just do the same thing that they do, right? And I said, so when I went through high school, I've had, in life, I've had like 3, 4 girlfriends. And for whatever reason, all of them didn't see a future with me. And I'm going like, I've never broke up with anybody. So it was them telling me, I don't see a future with you. And that can hurt, right? And I said, but, I tried again. And I got hurt again. But thank God I didn't quit, because now I've been with this incredible woman for the last 40 plus years. So see, you give them analogies because we all know people that have been hurt in a relationship and they just give up. They're just like, listen, I'm done. But my whole thought is, wow, what if you could find somebody? So now if you can get into that imagination space where you meet somebody that just adores you and just thinks the world is the better when you're in it, then why wouldn't you continue to try? Does that make sense with everyone? Because you're like, listen, I'm done with relationships. I don't know. You're unique. You're a miracle. That's something that you get to decide. I don't think relationships are for everyone, but I do know I'm the kind of person that loves being around other people. It just makes me feel better when I'm around other people. Now, sometimes those people don't want to be around you.
True. True story.
So then, she's got 2 golden retrievers and me that are constantly just following her around the house. You know what I mean? It's like, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys, again, instead of making them teaching moments, I'm going to do my best to sort of like, I don't know. It's always seems like if I make fun of myself, it seems more real. So when I come up with this thought today in my thinking in my prayer time, it's like, yeah, you still complain. And I just thought I'd share that with you guys, that usually some of the stuff that I'm constantly creating are stuff that I'm still doing. I need to be more aware of looking for reasons why it won't work and focus on looking for reasons why it will work.
Oh, I wanted to say something.
You wanted to say something?
Well, today I went and got our Tesla tags renewed. And so it's just a little tiny office. And all of a sudden they have a waiting room and you got to take a number. So I took my number, I sat down, and it's like, this lady has worked in there for forever and she moves like a sloth. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching her in the mirror, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, you could do like 5, 6 other people in the amount of time that you're just like slowly moving. So I'm like, when I get home, I'm going to post something about that on Facebook. I didn't. So then I'm driving home, and from the weather and whatever, we get potholes, and they fill them up really shitty. Like 4 or 5 trucks go over, and your pothole's going to be there all over again. So I'm driving, and I go, Jesus Christ, these guys do such a shitty fucking job at this. I'm going to mention that on Facebook when I get home. And I didn't. So I was like, oh my God. So maybe that's a good thing that I didn't,
Yeah.
but
I know some Facebook pages you could follow where they would probably have already complained about it, or are doing their Facebook lives and that's what their rant is about, right? And it's we have the thanks for sharing, love.
yeah.
But we have the abilities. I've heard her say the same thing about the women at the DMV. I don't think that. How many people do know someone that's experienced something awesome with the DMV? It's like
Like
yeah,
even
yeah. It's sort of like a mindset going in there that listen, we everyone's in a hurry and we're not. It's like everybody needs this to happen right away and we don't. But
checkers. Like the last time I took my mom grocery shopping, we went in this line, and the lady is like a sloth. I mean, oh my God. And my mom looks at me and she goes, oh my God, we got to remember this one. So I went to Walmart the other day, and they only had 2 checkers open. What a surprise. And I look, there she is. I'm like, shit, I'm going behind the lady who's got a full fucking cart of shit, because I'll still get through way faster than this lady pulling this off the thing and
Hey.
putting it. I mean, oh my God.
do you know what all slow people have in common?
Don't.
You complaining about
Oh, you're welcome.
them. They're on the freeway. They're in the checking aisle. Man, Terry can find the slow people everywhere.
Like, they're stopping at the roundabouts when nobody's coming, and you're, oh my God.
Oh, that was a perfect place. That was perfect. All right. I love you guys. Have a great, great, great day. I know Craig's got some announcements about tomorrow and Sunday, but yeah. Bob's like complainer. You know what I mean? It's like it is pretty interesting because we do. I'll just say this in closing. Whether you believe this or not, your words do matter.
They do.
Your words do matter. You will listen to yourself more than anything. So if you just live in a awful, awful world that's never getting better,
Better put good shit in your head.
yeah, then you're not things are not going to change for you until your thoughts change. So, Craig, back to you. Thank you, everyone. I love you.
Wow, what a great message, Robert, Terry. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, we got stuff coming up this weekend for everybody. Of course, tomorrow, Ask Us Anything, part of the premium package. Join us at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, where you get to ask anyone in our community anything, and we're going to help you get to the answer and get to the bottom of it. Sunday is Master's Mind. 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, just like Saturdays. But this one's open to everybody. So you get to join us and we get to finish the week, depending on how you look at it, or start the new week with a really nice message on the Master's Mind. That's on Sundays. Monday morning, recess. 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Just an open forum. We have fun, sit down. Great way to start the day, start the week. No topic. Just everybody shares. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Daily Wisdom, just like today, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. And then on Wednesdays, of course, not only do we have Daily Wisdom, but we've got Outwitting the Devil. It's a great series featuring Dana Scranton. He's our professor for this, on the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's a great series, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Join us, share it with everybody. And Thursdays, of course, Breakthroughs. That's a premium package. That starts at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. So every day, Every single day we got something for you, and we are just so glad to have you with us here in Unlimited Wisdom. Bless you. Thank you so very much. A few things in the chat. If you want to save the things in the chat, go ahead and click on the 3 dots in the meeting chat and then click on Save Chat. It will download to your computer as we conclude. So, that being said, thank you all so very much. Be good to yourselves. Be cash. Bye-bye. I'm going to go ahead and open up the doors and unmute everyone. Allow that to happen so we can all say so long. Have a fantabulous
Thank you.
Friday.
So long.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
I love you.
You're welcome. Bye,
Great
Faith.
daily
Bye, Matt.
wisdom.
Love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Great
Bye,
day.
Coach
Love
Bob.
you.
Bye.
Michael and Angela,
Love you, Terry,
Deborah,
Robert, Craig,
Justin.
everyone.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Brother Bill, Mike,
Yeah.
hostess with the mostest. Love you, Craig. Thank you for everything.